Please fasten your seat belts and return them to the upright position. This is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the start of International Monster Truck Museum Hall of Fame weekend here virtually in 2020. You know, the Friday night event, when you come to it, is just such a fun event because it's a time for all of the industry folks to meet, see folks they haven't seen in years. It's a chance for fans to see their heroes up close and in person, and lots of fun stuff. And you know, Jeff, we're going to try to bring some of the fun of the Friday night event to the folks virtually here. Talk to us about some of the great stuff that goes on.
Oh, man, it's always a lot of fun. We usually have an RC monster truck show, you know, and then we have a lot of the memorabilia. Guys bring their collections and put them on display, and it's always a lot of fun. It's a real family event. It's just a chance for you to meet your fans and your friends and everybody else. So it's usually a fun time.
Well, and also part of the fun of the weekend is the history discussion where we get, you know, this year's inductees and some of the past inductees and telling stories. So we're going to be doing a lot of that here tonight. Some storytelling, some exclusive, never-before-seen video that we're going to be showing to you. But really, we've got just a huge announcement, 10 years. And Jeff, tell us what's going on here.
Well, we've been here for 10 years. Everybody knows that we've just been a gallery in someone else's building. So Dean Cruz offered this deal to us 10 years ago to house our organization here, and it's been a great 10 years. We've had a lot of good times here, and we've actually, my goal when starting this was at 10 years we'd have our own home that would be a permanent home, and we've got some exciting announcements to make about that. So.
Well, that's the big news of the weekend, is we are proud to announce we've officially secured the forever home of the Hall of Fame. And we're going to be telling you more about that in tomorrow night's show, so be sure to tune in because that's going to be the reveal of the new location for the International Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame. But as part of tonight's show, we really want to look back and just think about some of the great memories that we've had here over the last 10 years at the Cruz Museum.
Well, I tell you, some of the great memories for me was the first year. To get that core group of the first monster truck guys to show up, there was actually some tension. I wasn't sure how everybody would get along because, back in the day, there was some guys that really butted heads and a lot of competition. And I remember being on the edge when people started showing up. I was hoping there wasn't going to be any, squabbles, but man, it was awesome. I mean, everybody walked up and give each other hugs. And the neat thing about this is that the common thing was guys love trucks. They love building the trucks. So a lot of guys have forgotten maybe the arguments over who won a race or who was the crowd favorite at a certain event. So that was some of my greatest memories, is just seeing guys come together for their love of the trucks.
And, so many of those great memories happen on Friday night. So we're going to get into it now, show you some of the great fun that we always have on Friday night, a Hall of Fame weekend virtually this year.
Hey everybody, it's Gene Patterson. I'm coming to you from my man cave, virtual. Woo! Yeah, the International Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame has asked me to say a few words about this year's inductees. Of course, I'd much rather be doing it in person, but this is the cards that we've been dealt. At the Fall Jamboree, there was still a small glimmer of hope that we could have the ceremony live and in person. We felt on the best interest of everybody and to continue being in a safe environment to try to do this thing virtual, like a lot of other sports award ceremonies are. This year's class is probably worth the 10th anniversary. You know, with all the kookiness and craziness that's going on, what can I say? The Jamboree, with the help of Mike Nickel and Charlie Palkin, we made the announcement. Dave Marquardt, Mark Bendler, Kevin Dabney, Scott Hess. Unique in each and every way, your trucks were different. Y'all set the bar high for everyone else. Scott, with your wild driving, I can contain to that. Mark Bendler, with your super jacked up Chevrolet setting 20 miles up in the air. I remember as a kid looking at this. Dabney, with your exotic designs. Mr. Marquardt, your suspension ideas were so far ahead. Class of 2015, when I walked across that stage, it hit me pretty hard when I seen all my peers and my heroes out there in the crowd. It's not lost, believe me. You're not forgotten. 2021, everyone will get their chance. Because monster trucks, back in the day, they met challenges all the time. You guys face adversity. You were trying to make something different. You were trying to make your mark on the monster truck industry, and you did, and it shows by this year's votes. Once just a side act, now the main act. Monster trucks for over 40 years will continue to grow and get bigger and better with time. This summer, I had the pleasure, even in this pandemic, to go out there and pull some wrenches for some of the huge superstars in our circuit today. There's fans out there, they still want to see monster trucks. They haven't given up on us, and we're not giving up on them. So stay tuned. The show is going to go on. This virtual thing, hey, it just might work. We don't know. But one thing's for certain, winners never quit, and quitters never win. Stay safe, everybody. See you down the road.
To crush or not to crush, that is indeed the question. Whether 'tis nobler to play the role of modern-day gladiator and assume the armor of the trade. To take the ultimate pride in the fire-breathing chariot one must ride, with hours of polishing and tuning behind. The battle looms. There's no place to hide. The arena beckons, the unseen voices cry. Bring forth the monsters, let them fight, let them vie. And high atop the metal steeds, brimming fuel and flame and fire, sit the noblest of them all, the knights of the Round Tire. But enough of pomp and praise and prattle. Let's begin the ultimate battle.
For all you fans out there, you know, it's great to come back and see all these original trucks. I restored my original truck back in 2009. And with things in mind, you know, as new fans come to our industry, they don't realize where we started from. You know, these trucks were just generic, basically overgrown pickup trucks to where we're at now with a state-of-the-art piece of equipment. And I wanted to do something as time went by to bring back where we started from and show people, you know, when you go to an event and go to a pit party where people can come down and see these trucks, you park one of these old trucks next to a new truck, and see the evolvement of what technology does throughout the years. And it's amazing to see, and thank God, our bodies now can take, things that we do now. If you took one of these trucks and tried to jump 40 or 50 feet in the air, you'd probably be a dead person by the time it landed. But the new things are amazing as well. But this is where it all began, and we wanted to do a little bit of a history lesson, and that's part of the reason why I got with Jeff. And he didn't realize I was putting my original truck back together, and I didn't realize he was putting his truck back together. And we got together and decided, that was something we probably should do, is secure our history in time. And between the two of us, we came up with the International Monster Truck Hall of Fame and Museum to try and preserve history so that future generations know exactly where we've come from.
Well, 10 years of this has been pretty amazing, and for me, growing up as a monster truck fan and being a fan of all different sports, one of the great things of sports is seeing your heroes get the recognition they deserve for being truly excellent and having longevity in a sport, and just kind of growing up with that. When Jeff approached me to be involved with the original board of directors for the Hall of Fame, it was such a great opportunity for us because it allowed us to try and set something up from the ground up that really gave these guys that recognition. And so one of the biggest things from my perspective being involved with this all the years was making sure that we set up the process in a way that it was for all of monster trucks. And that's why we've done so much work setting up the nominating committee, trying to get all different voices involved so that, these folks that get inducted, it truly is about, monster trucks as a whole and not just one person's opinion of what a Hall of Famer should be. And also, like I said, not even just necessarily the folks that excelled and go into the Hall of Fame, but even the folks that have worked in this industry. And that's the great thing about this, is having a chance to have a place where these people can be remembered for all the great memories that they gave us. And these last 10 years have been amazing. From that first year, Army Armstrong doing the induction ceremony, seeing Bob Chandler and Jeff Dane and Everett Jasmer, Jack Willman, Fred Schaefer, all these guys go into the Hall of Fame. And then each year from there, all these great legends, Dennis Anderson, Jim Kramer, and then getting a chance to host these events. And it's just been truly incredible, and we are so excited about the next 10 years to come. But right now, just looking back, thank you so much to the Cruz family and everyone for allowing this to be possible.
As somebody that's a longtime fan of the sport ever since I was a little kid, and I've been blessed to grow up and actually be a part of it, and to know all these people since I was a little kid by reading them in magazines or watching them on TV or watching them in person, to finally come to a place like this and meet them again. It's like it's just like being a kid again. I get to go back and be a kid again, and I get to go back and meet all the great people that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I get to be a part of great projects that other people can come and appreciate, and I really love that. And the last 10 years have been amazing, but the next 10 years are going to be even more amazing, because this place has got a lot of plans, and we've got a lot of ideas that we want people to come and appreciate with us and be a part of this.
This place is absolutely the best thing that I can ever dream of since I drove the truck. Many years went by, and I didn't have much to do with monster trucks. And once I realized what was going on with this Hall of Fame, I didn't even make it here until the third year. And I came here, and I truly regretted that I didn't come here the first 2 years and see the guys get inducted then. And it's just amazing, and everybody should experience this. We talked about, we were like a Thunder National group of guys. I did most of all Thunder National's work. And we had talked about doing a reunion with the Thunder Nationals, but there was no way to ever get the guys together. It would have never happened. And then all of a sudden, Jeff creates this Hall of Fame, and here we are, big reunion every single year. I get to see my friends that I hadn't seen in years, and it's just a great, great thing to do.
Our memory from the museum here was coming to the very first Hall of Fame ceremony. It gave us a chance to meet some of the old school fellas, and lo and behold, the guy who's running the museum is the guy that we first saw in 1996 drive War Wagon in a show in Wichita, Kansas. Our very first show live, and there was Jeff Cook in War Wagon, and coming full circle to the first Hall of Fame, there's Jeff. And over the years, these past 10 years, we have developed a wonderful friendship, and we have met all of the rest of the old school fellas, and it's just been a marvelous 10-year ride.
It certainly has, and I just grew up on those old school videotapes, like Bigfoot King of the Monster Trucks, for example. And when I was a kid, I would have done anything or gone anywhere to just meet these heroes of mine and drove monster trucks face to face. Even if I met them just one time, never saw them again, that would have been more than enough for young me. And now that I've not just met all these former heroes of mine, but to be honest, genuine, good friends with them, it is just fantastic, more than even young me could have imagined. And now to be starting off our second decade with our own building, a place all for the Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame to itself, just incredible. I look forward to the next 10 years.
Looks like they're all set. This guy can do it. I think he forgot his lunch in the back. Oh yeah, right up with no hesitation. No hesitation. Oh yeah. Much better, much better. Okay. He got him running a little harder. Oh yeah. Jumped him. A good. Get all these vehicles here slipped up. We're going to have them cleaned up in a few minutes here after the show by Hotsy of Hamlin, PA. Hotsy's cleaning system, the hot, high-pressure washers, steam cleaners, are going to clean up the trucks after the show tonight. Right now, we're going to clean up a car in the middle. As our guys getting ready with a... Nope, set them off yet. Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. I think we got loose there.
So, Bob, what do you think when we got here and I walked you through and showed you some of the trucks that were in here on display?
I thought it was a pretty cool deal. And then what really impressed me the most was to see you get inducted into the Hall of Fame and to see you get the recognition that you so deserve. In my eyes, and working with you hand in hand, building these trucks and whatnot. But it was really, and just the camaraderie of all of the drivers and people who were here. It was a really good time.
Yeah, just thinking back, all that garage hours, you know, grinding on, you know, one bracket for hours to make it, you know, fit right.
Yeah.
You know, and Bob, it had to be perfect when he was there. I was like,
No other way.
yeah, with me, oh, it's good enough. No, it's not. And he would get it and work on it another hour.
Bang heads many times on that.
You know, and you know, but like he said, you know, it you know, coming here and seeing that it just paid off all the hard work, and
Yeah.
you know, even our fans that are behind us, it's just, you know, it's the same thing with them. It's just that they just love it. All right, when I first started Monster Trucks, there was maybe 12, 13 trucks, and I remember going to the Indy Jamboree in 1983. In the early 80s, most people didn't even know what a monster truck was. By the end of the 80s, monster trucks evolved to what pretty much where they are today. I mean, most people today know what a monster truck is. Just about everybody know what a monster truck is today. Where the trucks have evolved to where they are today, of course, we all know our history is important to where, you know, monster trucks come from. So all the children today and the families, you know, it's important to be able to go back and see where our history evolved from. So coming to the museum, the very first year when I was here, it was amazing thinking that when I first built a monster truck and first drove out through my field with my truck and went to the first show, you know, I never thought it would come to where it is today. And to be able to come to the museum and see the start of this and see it grow, and, you know, just like everybody said, meeting all your people you race with in early years, and seeing your friends and seeing it evolve, and all the, you know, everybody sitting around talking about it, and then, you know, people coming to just talking, and then it's inspired the other drivers that was in it in the earlier years to, you know, find their old truck, restore it, just like Equalizer here. You know, this truck was getting ready to go to scrap. I bought it, brought it home. It was in my shop for a couple years. You know, we just kept throwing parts at it. David Morris got inducted. I brought it here and unveiled it, and surprised everybody. And it just, that kind of stuff has inspired other people to go find their trucks. You know, even if it doesn't exist anymore, they build it from scrap, and, you know, build their truck back up the way it was originally. And like I was saying, you know, as the years, you know, went by, and different years with the Hall of Fame, and then I found Taurus. It was up in Michigan, pretty much in the weeds, and they were going to sell what was left of the chassis and the rolling chassis to some mega truck guys, and I just would not allow that. And I called the fellow that owned it, and I made him an offer, and I said, do not sell that to them, because, you know, it's part of our culture. So I bought the truck and put a plan together, and we built it in 8 weeks. Well, no, it was actually about 7 weeks, and we brought it here, and we put a tent out back, and you know, unveiled it, and, you know, people just went nuts. And it just, to see Jack Wellman bring tears to his eyes, I mean, there's no better feeling, you know, to make people that. So what they did in the earlier years, his grandson was there, and it's just to put it right there that, you know, a lot of the younger people never seen it. They've seen it in videos and pictures, and to watch that truck come rolling into the building with Jackie driving, and it was definitely emotional.
Well, this is what Jeff caused by creating this wonderful, wonderful museum and Hall of Fame. Last year, we were able, with the help of many sponsors and friends, we were able to put together one of the old Barefoot trucks. How can you have a museum without a Barefoot in it? You know, the best Chevrolet that started the whole craze back in the 70s. So we helped put this together to have a permanent home with many, many other great trucks here in the museum and Hall of Fame. We were able to get Fred Schaefer here. Fred's retired in Florida and doesn't get away from home much, but he was finally able, with the help of many of us, begging him year after year. But we built this truck, and we got to come into the building and surprise everybody with Fred riding shotgun with me, and what an emotional event. It was one of the best experience ever in a monster truck. It was like driving in to the Superdome back in the 80s. It's just unbelievable, the experience, to all the fans excited and cheering with Fred Schaefer riding shotgun in one of the original Barefoot trucks.
Hey, another year, year 10 at the Hall of Fame, totally unbelievable. Where would we be without my friend Jeff Cook and his family that dedicated so much time and effort into this into this foundation. It's absolutely unbelievable. There's huge things coming in the future. If you're a monster truck fan and not involved in this, we're going to have a psych job done on you. There's something wrong with you. This is absolutely incredible. The Friday night deal here is like the best class reunion ever. They only let the cool kids in. Of course, that's why I'm here. And you see people you haven't seen in 25, 30 years, and it's like you were never apart. It's absolutely epic. You need to be a part of it. Yeah, when we brought Terminator here for the first time in 2018, I want to say, in 2018, it was like flashing back 30 years in time to the 80s. And it was an epic experience, and you know, I had a bunch of great people involved in the build of this, my kids that weren't even thought of at that time, and you know, bringing it here, it's like a flashback, you know. And now there's so many other great trucks here, and we're gonna stay tuned. We're gonna debut one here very shortly this year.
Hey everyone, this is Andy Brass, retired monster truck champion driver of Bigfoot 4, 8, 10, 11, and Wildfoot. Also 2014 Monster Truck Hall of Fame inductee. And I'd like to say hey to everyone and hope you're being safe through this pandemic. Also like to say congratulations to Dave, Mark, Kevin, and Scott on your induction into the Hall of Fame. It's a great honor. Also, it's a great honor to be part of this group and for the Monster Truck Hall of Fame to be 10 years. Good job, guys. Maybe we can all get together when this pandemic's over, swap a few stories, tell a few lies. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen and fellow monster truck enthusiasts, I already wrote one speech already for this year's Hall of Fame ceremony, but Jeff commandeered that one for the newsletter, so I'll try to find another way to say, boy, do I love monster truck history. I thank you all who have let me carry on these past 2 years, spout my thoughts as a youngster, and be gracious enough to believe in me even though I'm really just a fan. The resurgence of old school monster trucks has started its engine and left the starting line. Recent actions are proof that the old school rebirth is moving forward with increasing speed. The last several years have seen the lineup here at the museum, once stagnated, increase significantly, and currently the lineup of crowd-pleasing, car-smashing vehicles arrives at a combined history of about 130 years. Heavyweight car crushers like Showtime and Terminator have joined high-speed racers like Equalizer and Taurus Racer to be housed here. To the names behind the restorations like Vaders, Hess, Arft, Richmond, and many others, we cannot thank you enough for making lost history found again. Still, history is rumbling alive elsewhere as well. This past February, Monster Vet and Frankenstein were brought back to their original car-crushing glory. For those who may not know, the driving duties of Frankenstein that weekend were in the capable hands of the son and daughter of the late Barry Wentz, the original driver, bringing the name Frankenstein full circle. Other legendary names back in existence included Just Showing Off and Texas Toy. To Kyle Thomas and Rocky Road, a heartfelt thank you for your hard work and contributions. Also in existence is a large list of retro monster trucks still in the building pipeline. Names like All-American, Rollin' Thunder, Flying High, the Blue Thunder Camaro, Jack Coburna's Beast, and Bigfoot 2, 3, and 4 are getting more complete day by day. The IMTM sincerely thanks all of you who undertook these projects. At the same time, old school's exposure and merchandise is gaining force, and it is so good to see Greenlight Collectibles and Bigfoot 4x4 leading this charge. New, young fans enjoying some of the same names their parents were entertained by long ago. It bridges the gap between the current generation of fans and the history of our sport. With those factors in mind, the saying, "What's old is new again," applies more to the old school revolution now than it ever has before. In my opinion, there has never been a better time to be an old school fan. Whether you are a classic or current owner or driver, young or old fan or part of the industry, we are united in our cause. We are in an ongoing fight to preserve the authentic history of this sport. It has occurred to me that it is imperative we preserve and expand old school history in the IMTM so that it will be safe and waiting for the next generation of fans who want to learn about and awe at the big trucks. I share your disappointment that there is no official ceremony this year. I look forward to once a year being back at the gathering where so many people are interested that last year there were 400 people IMTM's first ever sellout. But this old school movement will carry on. And even this unprecedented time in our sport can't and won't beat us. This place once had an uncertain future, but has since rebounded to exist for 10 years. And if this old school reboot continues to grow at the rate it has up till now, I personally feel that there are excellent odds this institution will remain open for another 10 years. Please remember to stay strong and firm in your commitment and support of IMTM and Old School. And God willing, we will see you next year and celebrate our friendships in person again. Thank you.
Hey, one of the new things we've added this year is the newsletter and the membership. Every month you'll get a newsletter for $50 a year for your membership. You can stay in touch. You know what's going on. I'm here with Scott Bryant. He's helping us with the newsletter. Tell us what you're doing.
I get to interview my heroes from my childhood and write articles on them and put them in the newsletter, and I'm very grateful for that. And as a member of the museum, you get to contribute to the newsletter as well. If you're building a truck or if you're building a model, we want to feature you and share you with the rest of our members because it'd be a great idea.
So it's only $50. Join now and stay in touch.
Hello, Monster Truck fans. Mike Welch here from the class of 2012. I ran the Super Pete and the Monster Mash out of Bellingham, Washington. I'd like to congratulate the class of 2020. That marks the 10th year of the Hall of Fame. Scott, Dave, Kevin, and Mark will be added to a long list of awesomeness. We look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Take care, friends. I love you all.
Scott Hess's shop. This is kind of the history discussion portion of our Friday night episode. You know, we're just going to have a little story time here, a little bit. So let's talk about a little rivalry here. You know, one guy caused another guy to build a new truck, back and forth. You know, Excalibur helped get Hercules going crazy. So tell us a little bit of story about that. You know, you guys always seen Excalibur hitting them cars, pile driving them. Tell us how that changed Hercules.
Aaron Polburn worked in this area, and to get working with Aaron, you had to go through Excalibur, and they set the bar so high on working in hockey rinks, hitting 5 or 6 cars and landing on concrete. I mean, nobody done it early like Excalibur. So they made me better. What Dave and Mike were doing was incredible, and I couldn't wait to get in on that tour so I could learn from them and eventually start trying to kick their ass.
Well, we were pretty comfortable with doing shows for Aaron until he showed up with Barefoot. And the first couple shows we learned real quick that he was going to do whatever it took to beat us. And so Chucky was driving at the time, Chuck Pauken, and I told Chuck, I said, well, we're used to taking first most of the time, but I think from now on, we're going to be taking second because I'm not destroying Excalibur to keep up with him.
So that kind of led you guys to build the new Excalibur race truck, just because Barefoot was dominating your territory. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that's exactly what made us build the second truck. Dave and I came home and said, you know, the first truck just ain't going to do this. We're going to destroy it. It's more than it can handle. So he is the one, Scott's the one that made us build the race truck. That's for sure.
To me, guys, is an example of why we're here today as great friends. As bad as I wanted to kick all these guys' ass, I would immediately be in the pits helping change a tranny or a rear end or whatever it took, because we wanted to beat them when they were 100%. But yet, we'd all go to dinner, we'd all go to wherever after the show, and we'd travel together. Jerry and I got so many miles on the road together, and that was what I believe was special about the early monster truck guys.
That was a uniqueness about our industry. You know, we were family. You know, when the light turned green, it was all out war. But when we were at the finish line, everything was done, it was family, and it didn't matter whoever was broke, everybody pitched in to help that person get back out, you know, and take care of business. And then when the business was done, everybody was back to being family again.
You were saying about helping everybody else so you could kick their ass. You would learn them parts so you could kick their ass.
Right, exactly, yeah. And that's what makes it so special about this group of people. And it's a huge group, but we've all been bonded for 35 plus years. It's just amazing. And thanks to Jeff, you know, he created this 10 years ago, and that's what's reunited us. I mean, you know, I told Jerry the other day, if 30 years ago, you could offer me $1 million to tell one of these goofballs that I loved them, I lost $1 million. But today, I tell them all the time because I love these guys.
Scott told me he loved me.
So a minute ago, he was talking about everybody traveling together. Jerry, tell us a good story about traveling with Scott Hess. I'm sure you got at least one or two good ones.
Probably one of our most memorable trips was Winnipeg, Manitoba. It was in the summer of '88. It was 12,000 degrees, one of the hottest summers on record. And Scott and I are traveling with 1-ton dualies, and it was so incredibly hot. And one of the memorable things out of that trip, and there was a lot of them, was we pulled into the toll booth in Rockford, Illinois, and I hit the brakes. I'm like, oh my God, my brakes are working great. Then I realized I was completely locked up. I couldn't move. Well, what had happened, I hit the brakes, it snapped the center bolt and moved the one axle back against the other. And like I said, it's 103, 104 degrees, and we're locked up at the toll booth at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's traffic back clear up to Chicago and back clear up to Iowa the other way. And we're trying to get the tire off. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And I feel a knock on my shoulder. I'm like, what? And I turn around. It's an Illinois State cop. He goes, you're going to have to move this. I go, dude, it's all yours. Have at it. I go, move it. And he goes, I'm telling you, I'm going to get you towed if you don't move it. I go, dude, call somebody. I'm all good with that.
So one of the things, you know, this group of guys this year pretty much ran for the same promoters for the most part. And you guys are all kind of Midwestern guys this year. You know, in the past, we've had guys from the West Coast that maybe you didn't even know. But tell us a little story about one of the shows that all you guys remember or something. What would be an iconic thing that you guys remember?
Well, to me, the Indianapolis Jamborees, you know, those started
That's what started everything.
in the early 80s, and that's where I met a lot of these guys, you know, because, you know, we didn't have no way of communicating. There was no social media,
No internet.
A magazine or at one of the Jamborees is pretty much where we would.
I mean, the Excalibur guys and us, we met as street truck guys.
Yeah.
That's where it all started. We've said it 100 times, but that is where it all started. Scott had a street truck. I had a street truck. These guys had street truck, and that's where it all started. And it started at Marion County Fairgrounds on the south side.
Well, and you showed up with the first rear steering
with us.
Yeah, started on I-70. We've told this story 100 times. I don't think it ever gets old. Mike, I look in my mirror and I go, wow, there's a new Ford coming up behind me. And he goes around me and hits his rear steer at about 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, holy cow, he's got rear steer. He broke something real bad.
That's the way we roll in Maryland.
Yeah. So early Jamborees, and then you guys did a lot of Thunder Nationals events. I know a lot of people tell me that the whole Hall of Fame is turning into a Thunder Nationals deal, but it's not really intended to. It's just
a lot of the early
early hard hitters came from that series. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you know, that series.
If you survive the Thunder Nationals at a fairly high level, you are a rock star. When you can hit full unmolested cars, you know, trying to follow these maniacs. I remember the first time I saw him hit cars. It was my second indoor show with Aaron. Of course, everybody knows about the picture from my first indoor show with Aaron. And then I ran with these guys the very next weekend in Fort Wayne, right down here. And when I saw these guys, I'm standing on the floor, and this guy mows the cars down. I looked at everybody in panic mode. I go, we don't have to do that, do we? And then within a year or two, guess what? We're all side by side mowing the grass. Yeah. These guys, like Scott said, they set the bar so high. And I mean, they were the benchmark. Even going into the race truck, when we built the Maximum Overkill truck, and it was a joy to line up next to him in that truck, because that truck was a bully, and I knew we were in the game. And when you beat anybody from Excalibur, dude, that was like beating Bigfoot, you know. Yeah. Only they were nicer guys. Sorry, you might have to edit that out.
So that leads us into another question, and let's start with Alan here. Who probably was one of your biggest rivals, and you know, when you actually beat them? Tell us that experience or that story.
I considered everybody rivals, you know. I mean, you know, as a racer, you want to beat anybody that you line up next to. So any one particular, I mean, I guess, you know, Excalibur, I mean, they were the ones that was kind of leading that charge and mowing the cars over. So, you know, if you could run with them guys, you could run with anybody or beat anybody. And, you know, it's pretty gratifying to be all these years later. You know, that core group of guys, you know, that kind of started the industry are still together, you know, and very good friends. And just like, you know, Scott said, you know, you don't tell somebody you love them until, you know, things go away for a long time, then you come back to see them. It's like,
appreciate it.
You appreciate it. It's amazing, you know, that started a core group of friendship that'll last a lifetime.
And what Alan's saying, it was even before the racing, before what Dave and Mike started. I can remember meeting Alan at Halls Off-Road, in Coldwater, Michigan. I don't even think he had a driver's license, but we were
doesn't.
we were so naive and young, and you'd see another monster truck, you got some ideas because there was no way of knowing, because we were all out here doing it ourselves. So, seeing each other, the rivalry started to see what they were doing and trying to outdo it, from a shock standpoint, or more lights, or taller, or wider, or whatever it was. But
it goes back to human nature, you want to be the best.
Right.
So you look at everybody else's stuff and it's like, okay, well, that's a cool idea there. That's a cool idea there. Now, if I put all those together, I'm going to be the bad boy on the block.
And that's why monster trucks are what they are today. Was all of us amongst another 20 guys at the early days, we all just bounced off each other when we would see them. We'd go home and take that idea and modify it, and we all made everybody better.
So back to the original question. Who was your biggest rival, and tell us the time that you beat them and what that meant at the time in your life.
For me, the ultimate was to beat Bigfoot, because, they were on the plateau. They were the highlight of everywhere you went, and that was the ultimate. But as things got on, they were easy to beat. Then it became these guys that drove us, Obviously, Steve S., I wanted to beat him because he was close, another Chevy guy, and we had a friendly rival, But for me, originally, it was Bigfoot, And when I rolled in Ohio or wherever it was, when Patterson rolled, my crew guys, Brad's here now, he'll tell you, I sat in that truck for 20 minutes before we were even told to line up, because I was so in a zone, because I was going to beat him at any cost, and everybody knows the cost. I ended up on my lid.
Well, and he did too, and that was I remember him telling me how that was a scary moment for him to call Bob about that, but I think Bob was excited that he crashed because of you, so it was kind of a deal. But so Mike, you're still currently running. A lot of these guys here have retired. Well, Alan's still running, but you're still running. You're running a 4-truck team. Tell us, what was a highlight in your career with?
Pretty much the same as Scott, beating Bigfoot. We was at a show up in Ontario. I can't remember the name of the venue, but I remember it was festival seating, hillside seating. Bigfoot was there, Virginia Giant, and I remember racing Kramer and beating him. I was 19 years old. That was being in the garage, just taking my street truck and building it, being around Bigfoot and, the few trucks that were around at the time, and to be able to go out there and be able to say I beat Bigfoot as a teenager. Yeah. That was a lot that really motivated me and drive me. Exactly. And all these guys, Fred and Jack and Bigfoot, and, in the early years, we talk about our super fans now. I was a super fan of them. And that's why, back at the museum, when you see these trucks that are going to go to scrap, I just can't let it happen, because I was a super fan of them trucks in my earlier years.
So, okay, Jerry, same question. You've been out of it for a few years, but you ran a lot of equipment, a lot of trucks up and down the road. What was your defining moment or your biggest, career win?
Well, I beat Bigfoot. What was that show? I don't think you were there, Mike, in Canada when I beat Andy Brass in the finals.
Was it down in Miami?
With Weapon One. Well, that was, Miami that was with Extreme Overkill. I mean, there were many of them, but obviously, like these guys. And to clarify it for the fans that are going to be watching this, the reason Bigfoot was the benchmark, they were never in our league. They were always way out of our league. They always way out finance us. They had the best equipment, the best haulers. I guarantee they weren't hauling down the road in a 20-year-old 1-ton, at 55 miles an hour. When Scott and I were sweating, they had the AC blowing on them. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to us, and that's such a benchmark. It's no disrespect. It's nothing but respect to that team.
None of us had any money back then. No money. I mean, we
still don't.
Right. But what Jerry's saying, we had no money. We got scrap from the scrap yard to build parts on our truck where Bigfoot would. They had the finances and the backing and the support.
So that's
to have
why
new
that's
parts.
why the win was bigger than perhaps the win.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It's very true.
But there was many great wins. Our last year with Extreme Overkill, running with the bad dogs of then United States Hot Rod, it was running the Overkill Evolution truck, which I think will go down in history as one of the most prolific trucks ever built. To this day, I truly believe somebody could belt into that truck and be competitive in straight line side-by-side racing. That truck was 20 years ahead of its time.
Yeah, extreme overkill.
Yeah, thank you. What'd I say?
Yeah,
Don't insult me.
What'd I say? What'd I say? Evolution?
He's been losing his memory for years.
I would whoop Overkill Evolution's ass.
Scott's gonna drive her. But you gotta put your neck brace on.
I'm gonna tell you one of Dave's experiences.
Okay, all right.
Since he's being inducted this year. It was 1986, Toronto, Canada.
Skydome.
It was side-by-side racing. Bigfoot was there. Dave lined up. There was cars, hills, jumps, cars. It was a very long track. They both lined up. They took off. They were side-by-side all the way through. Right at the end, Dave got Bigfoot by a nose. When they both landed, the tires went, the rims actually hit the ground. The tires went all the way down. And I know Bob thought that was pretty unique because he sent me a video showing that. He had never seen that before. And Dave had edged out Bigfoot by a nose length. And from what I know, that was the first time that Bigfoot was ever beat in side-by-side competition.
Okay, so Mark Bindler's one of the guys getting inducted this year too, and he doesn't happen to be able to be with us this time, but tell us a Mark Bindler story. Do we have any stories about Mark?
I got one. And back to those days when everybody was trying to be
Monster
taller,
Corral.
wider, heavier. You know, that was the theme during the early days. But, you know, again, Marion County Fairgrounds is where everybody came to show off and show their new designs or things they had done. And Kodiak with Mark came in there and he had created that double frame. And that truck was so tall. It was just, it blew everybody away. I couldn't get enough. It was all weekend. I kept going back and staring at all those drop boxes and the frame. And I mean, that truck had to be 15, 16 foot. It was so stinking high, you know. And
On 66s.
unfortunately, you know, the business started going the other way. But at that time, he kicked everybody's butt when he came out with that design.
The industry changed at that point, and Mark stayed with it. He actually updated his trucks and then built new trucks to keep up with the industry. He was one of the very few people that did that, but he showed that you could change your operation and, you know, change with the industry, just like Alan did, a lot of you did back in the late 80s and early 90s, and you showed that you could adapt to what was going on. And that's another main thing about this industry, is that you guys have showed that you can change your operation and continue to be successful. Yeah, Kodiak was another big truck in the 80s, and it had a lot of things. We talked about the chassis that it had and the drivetrain that it had, but another unique thing that it had was a large winch on the front of it. He had a custom-made bumper, and it had a huge winch that almost took up the entire front of the truck. It was a big 60-ton winch from, what was it, military?
Of course, yes. Yeah.
And the truck just had a lot of unique features like that.
So another guy that is getting inducted this year is Kevin Dabney, and he's not able to be up here with us either. But so we're going to tell a few Kevin Dabney stories. But my first experience with Kevin was in 1984 when I went to the Marion County Fairgrounds to the Jamboree and seeing what you guys all remember as Blue Thunder, the Camaro. And in those days, everybody had to feed off of everybody. And I remember that being super cool because my dad had built a four-wheel drive car, so we were big into that four-wheel drive car thing. But I was always puzzled why they picked them ugly tires. And then later, after getting to know them guys, I think those tires weighed somewhere around 3,800 pounds apiece. But nobody had any idea back in those days. You know, they thought if it was a big tire, it was all heavy. But they said that was when their eyes got woken up. They were there and seen everybody rolling their tear tires around, and they go, "We need a crane to move our tires." But Kevin, you know, and I actually, Kevin sold me my first set of axles for the first war wagon that I built. But anybody else got a good Kevin story?
Well, they had that joystick, you know, that was so amazing.
Blue Thunder had so many firsts in the industry. Scott could tell you more about it than I could because of his and Marty's research. Kevin Dabney, talk about out of the box, he didn't even know there was a box. The guy built stuff that was so one-off, it was unbelievable. And like a mad scientist, the way I would describe Kevin, you know, the way he built stuff. I mean, incredible.
I can remember as a kid, you know, following monster trucks and magazines and whatever, and I remember when the Megaforce truck came out in the magazines, just how incredible it was, and it had not just 66-inch tires or 74-inch tires, it had 80-inch Firestone tires, and it was one of the bigger trucks, you know, crushing cars at that time. And it had so much, you know,
body tilting.
The body tilting and
two
everything.
engines.
It had two engines. Yep. It had the stacked differential type of driveline with Clark planetaries. Now, planetaries have been used before Megaforce, but the Dabneys, and particularly Kevin, was responsible for bringing the Clark planetary into the industry. That's ultimately become
Standard.
one of the most popular, the standard planetary that the industry uses now.
So, you know, Kevin Dabney, another story with him is, you know, him and Kirk, they had two pretty dominant trucks out there on the series. And then, of course, when he built the Durliner Giant, you know, that was another one. And then Megaforce, I mean, their trucks were very showpiecey. Those guys were way ahead of their time on the big, heavy, massive, awesome trucks. But, you know, it's pretty ironic how a lot of the key guys all kind of circled in the same circles, because like Dennis Anderson started his career helping the Dabneys and hanging out with them. And I think he actually got his first set of tires. It was on Digger out of Dabney's shop or something to take to a mud bog, because Dabneys weren't able to go and they were out of town, and Dennis went over and borrowed the tires and did a car crush.
We stole them.
So
tell that, you know, you said you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's how I met Bob Butler. 2 years before, I met Bob at, you know, he has the Westport Fair up in Massachusetts, and Bob first had Kirk there with Blue Thunder, and that's how I met Dennis. Dennis was crewing for Kirk, and the next year, then he met Dennis and was talking to him. He goes, "I got a truck called Gravedigger," and so the next year they called Dennis, and then Dennis come in the next year, Bob's Fair with Gravedigger.
Kirk was still wondering how they lost that venue. Now he knows.
Well, then I stole it from Dennis. That's how I met Bob.
So, you know, hopefully all you guys enjoyed this. I didn't do as good as Bob Chandler. He normally hosts the question and answer session, and he does such a great job of getting guys to tell stories and getting the fans to ask questions. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this segment.
With Jeff Smith at the wheel. It's got a 468 flow injected in an alcohol motor, and I know he's at right around plus 1,000 horsepower. He's sponsored by Pro Racing Accessories and BC Auto Paint. Let's give it up for Jeff Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Injected an alcohol at 1,000 horsepower, and you notice one thing, he's one of the big 20-inch nitrogen shocks, state of the art, new on the market. Let's give it up for Kevin Dabney and the Summit Butler.
I'm up to my shins in mud, what a sight. I didn't sleep all night. My back is sore and my hands are in shreds. Now this carburetor here don't wanna work. I must love to play, cause it sure as heck don't pay. Come on and drive that monster truck. Come on and drive that monster truck. From town to town and coast to coast, we're driving every night. 6 to a room and 3 to a bed. And now we're up against the Sherman tank on a Chevy truck. We're at the line, we're shifting gears, let her go. Come on and drive that monster truck. Come on and drive that monster truck.
Hey, thanks for watching tonight. It's been a great program.
Thank you to the Cruise Museum for housing us here for 10 great years.
We say goodbye, and tomorrow we reveal the new home for the Hall of Fame. We'll see you tomorrow night.